The Republican-led effort to tighten state voting laws is getting a burst of support from former President Donald Trump. He has taken a phrase used by Democrats to describe his phony claim that the 2020 election was stolen, and he's taking aim again at a high-ranking member of his own party. Ed O'Keefe is in Washington for us. Ed, good morning.
Good morning, Tony. The former president, backed by an overwhelming number of Republicans, is pressuring GOP leaders to address their unfounded concerns about the integrity of last year's elections. Remember, Iowa and Georgia were among the first states to rewrite their election laws. Florida's just done so, and Texas could soon be doing so, too.
We will win the Senate.
Former President Trump and Wyoming Congresswoman Liz Cheney are at odds once again. In a statement Monday, Mr. Trump said the fraudulent presidential election of 2020 will be, from this day forth, known as the Big Lie. Cheney fired back, tweeting the election was not stolen. Anyone who claims it was is spreading the big lie, turning their back on the rule of law, and poisoning our democratic system. Cheney is facing primary challengers back home and could face another challenge to her position as the third-ranking House Republican, with growing calls for her ouster from colleagues upset she keeps fighting publicly with the former president. Recent polls show most Republicans agree with Mr. Trump. 7 in 10 don't consider President Biden the legitimate winner of last year's election. And CBS News political analyst Leslie Sanchez says those are hard numbers for GOP leaders to ignore.
This is less an issue of being loyal to Trump and more an issue of ensuring that the Republicans within their state feel that it's a fair and legitimate election moving forward.
Now, Texas Republican legislators are debating proposals to stop elections officials from sending unsolicited absentee ballot requests, add stricter ID requirements for mail voting, and make it easier for partisan poll watchers to observe as voters cast ballots.
People in America have lost faith in their elections and the outcome, and we have to resolve that issue.
But election law expert David Becker says the Texas proposals would roll back voting rights.
Texas was already one of the hardest states to vote in the country, and they're trying to make it even harder.
And last week, Florida Republicans passed a bill adding ID requirements for voters requesting mailed ballots, among other restrictions.
If lawmakers want to increase the integrity of American elections, they should be encouraging early voting. They should be encouraging mail voting.
Now, some of the proposals still up for debate in places like Texas, Michigan, and Arizona are just that, proposals still being debated, and many of the more controversial ones could eventually get stripped out. In Florida, for example, they didn't outright ban the use of drop boxes for ballots that had been up for consideration. And in Texas, it's unclear if they're going to ban the use of drive-through voting, something that had proven quite popular last year during the pandemic, especially in predominantly Democratic areas like Houston.
Yeah.
Anthony?
I'm sure it did, Ed. Thank you very much, Ed O'Keefe.